After 25 years on the bench, people assumed I was made of steel, cold, sharp, no nonsense. I built a career on cutting through games, making grown men tremble on national television without so much as blinking. I wore that reputation like armor. I still do. But on a quiet Tuesday morning in April, a 4-year-old girl walked into my courtroom, looked me dead in the eye, and said 4 words that shattered that armor completely. She looked up at my bench and said, "My daddy cries every night." For the first time in my entire life, I went completely silent. I want to tell you exactly what happened that day, because it is a story about a quiet, unseen heroism that the world completely ignores. Before the cameras and the fame, I spent decades in the family courts of Manhattan. I've seen humanity at its most raw. I know when someone is lying, and I certainly know when someone is truly desperate. That morning, my docket was filled with standard, mundane traffic and parking violations. To most people, minor stuff. But to the person standing in front of you, it's their entire life. It is happening to them right now. Then I pulled up a file for a man named Daniel Reyes. 3 unpaid parking violations. Same exact street, always on a Tuesday or Thursday morning. $210 total with fees. On paper, it was unremarkable. But I have an absolute nose for patterns, and this pattern told me there was a hidden story. When his name was called, Daniel walked. I noticed things. I noticed the exhaustion deep in his eyes, but I also noticed how sharply his button-down shirt was ironed, the immense effort people make to show up with dignity. I always look for that. But it was Sophia who caught my attention. She was maybe 4 or 5 years old, wearing a little sundress with a sunflower hair tie, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit to her chest. She wasn't clinging to him out of fear. She was holding his hand like he was his protector. This tiny person was there to take care of her dad. I saw it in 3 seconds, and something in my chest moved. I looked at him and said, "Mr. Reyes, 3 violations, same block, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Talk to me." He didn't stutter. He looked me straight in the eye, which I always appreciate, and explained. He said, "Your Honor, I park there twice a week because it's the closest spot to the clinic where Sophia receives her speech therapy program. She has a severe speech delay. The sessions are almost 3 hours long, but the parking limit is only 1 hour. I can't leave her mid-session, and I can't afford the $12 garage. I don't have another choice." I leaned forward. "What do you do for work, Mr. Reyes?" The room went quiet. He paused, that heavy pause people give when the truth is painful to admit. He said, "I was a line cook. The restaurant shut down 3 months ago. Now I'm just doing grocery delivery shifts when I can get them. I'm trying, Your Honor. I'm really trying." There was no performance, no begging for sympathy, just a proud man running completely out of runway, doing everything he could to keep his daughter afloat. I have seen that look 10,000 times in my career, and it never stopped meaning something to me. And that's when Sophia tugged his hand. She looked past her father, looked straight up at me with absolute, unfiltered innocence, and spoke directly into the courtroom. "My daddy cries every night." Before we go any further, if you believe stories of real, honest people deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button right now. Let's get back to the bench. I am not a soft touch. I am tough and I am realistic. I have been called ruthless, usually by people who deserved exactly what they got in my courtroom. But those 4 words from that little girl hit a nerve I didn't know I had left. I took my glasses off. I set them down on the bench. Because here is the thing about children. They don't know how to lie about what matters. She wasn't strategizing. She wasn't trying to manipulate me. She was just telling the truth completely cleanly, without apology. And the truth she was telling was about watching her father carry something incredibly heavy and wanting someone to know. I looked at Daniel. He was completely undone, staring at his daughter with a face full of love and pure heartbreak, because his child saw a vulnerability he thought he had hidden so well in the dark. I cleared my throat. Mr. Reyes, you are carrying a lot right now, but what I see is a man doing everything right in a situation that is making everything hard. All 3 fines are dismissed. Every single one. The courtroom let out a collective exhale. Daniel looked at me, tried to find words, closed his mouth, and just blinked back tears. He picked up his daughter and walked out. I thought that was the end of the story, but justice doesn't stop there. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, a young woman stepped up to the podium. My clerk had flagged her file with a note. She looked at me and said, "Your Honor, my name is Angela Moretti. I'm Daniel Reyes's sister. I brought Sophia in this morning while Daniel was getting the car. I heard everything. And I came back this afternoon because I need you to know who my brother really is." I put my pen down and listened. Angela told me that Daniel had been raising Sophia completely alone since she was 18 months old. The moment Sophia was diagnosed with her speech disability, her mother couldn't handle the pressure. She walked out and never looked back. For 3 years, Daniel did it all. Every therapy session, every doctor's appointment, practicing speech exercises late into the night. He cut the crusts off her sandwiches, searched the stores for the specific hair clips she loved, and never complained to a single soul. She paused, wiped her eyes, and said, "He never talks about how hard it is. He just carries it. But Sophia hears him at night when he thinks she's asleep. She hears him crying. I'm not here to fight my own traffic ticket, Your Honor. I'll pay it. I just needed him to be fully seen. He's been invisible for so long." My heart pulled. I looked at her and said, "Your ticket is dismissed too, and you go home tonight and tell your brother that he is not invisible, not to that little girl, and certainly not to me." 3 days later, my clerk knocked on my chamber doors. Daniel and Sophia had come back to thank me in person. I stood up from my desk, something I almost never do. Daniel shook my hand and told me, "Thank you for actually listening." Then he looked down at his shoes and murmured, "I didn't know she heard me. I'm going to do better. I don't want her carrying my weight." I stopped him. I said, "The fact that she heard you and then walked into a legal courtroom ready to protect you isn't a sign that you're failing, Daniel. It's proof that you are an extraordinary father. Children don't try to protect people they fear. They protect the people they love fiercely. Let her love you." He looked at me for a long moment, and I watched something finally lift from his eyes. Then Sophia, with a deadly serious face, held out her stuffed rabbit across my desk. She said, "You can hold him. He's nice." I have received national awards. I've been called one of the most influential women in television history. But none of it, not a single bit of fame, moved me the way that little girl holding out a worn stuffed rabbit did. I took him gently and asked his name. She said, "Mr. Flop." I told her Mr. Flop was in excellent company. She nodded, completely satisfied, and tucked him back under her arm where he belonged.
A few weeks later, I found out Daniel was hired full-time as a head line cook at a new restaurant downtown, with excellent benefits and a schedule that kept his Tuesdays and Thursdays completely open for therapy. $210. That's all that stood between that family and a downward spiral. It could have caused a suspended license, missed therapy, and shattered progress for that little girl working so hard. That is how fragile lives are, one single domino. My father always told me, you can judge a person's true character by how they behave when nobody is watching. Daniel Reyes had been behaving with legendary character in empty parking lots, therapy waiting rooms, and quiet, dark bedrooms for years. A spine without a heart isn't justice, it's just a stick. The law belongs to everyone, and every human being deserves to be seen, heard, and treated as a full human being. If this story meant something to you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone in your life who is quietly carrying a heavy weight today. Let them know they are seen. I'm Judge Judy, and I'll see you at the next case.